Back with another episode of Hammer Meet Anvil, this time with Catfood. He's known as the author of Ruby, which was added to CSGO somewhat recently. Then more recently than that, he's been working with Bubkez and I think it's Rizzle on Engage, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Rizzle.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
very good. That's right.
And then after that, of course, now you're known as the man who was approached by Brute to work on Tuscan. That's the big news that came out recently. So definitely, you've got a long history with this game as far as making maps go. I mean, I've seen some of your CS:GO maps from way back as well. So I know you've been a sort of a lifer in this environment, but now it's your time to shine. You know, people are talking big stuff.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I'm like super excited about it, of course, and. Already read responses already. It's like, it's super exciting. I don't know which way to go yet, so it's really early.
Of course, yeah.
But to get like this much attention for like one map, normally it's like when you do a level, you get a lot of people. Oh, that's great. You got like feedback or shit, whatever. But this time it's more people got to be more critical, I guess. So it's really interesting.
Well, the pressure's on now, right? No kid gloves or anything. So
no.
I'm curious about. Just going back to the sort of the starting grounds here, the initially speaking, when you're trying to get a map done for the first time, some people have said like you should draw it out in 2D. Other people have argued, say, oh, maybe just start working on the map in Hammer and run around it because that's the only time you can really get a feel for it. What's your take on like how to start out with a map? Like how do you go? What's your process look like for if you're just trying to make a layout and trying to explore some ideas? How do you actually go about doing it initially?
Yeah, like starting off from a 2D layout is like really good because you can like of course change every corridor, every area like really quick. But what I normally try to do is like do a mix. So try to draw out certain areas or angles that I think would be really cool. And then I'm gonna take them to Hammer, like the roll engine, like the level editor. Then try those things out in game. So like separate areas, so you get like more sense of height and depth. Those things you don't have on paper, right? So also because like if you have like a higher area and a lower area, it's really hard to imagine what the angle is going to be from paper.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. Yes, I think it's important to go from paper to block out really fast, and then if it doesn't work out, just to go back to paper. If you got like a couple of cool areas that work on their own, just try to like combine them, and then. Yeah, maybe if you go back to paper again. It's like I try to like go back and forth all the time. So yeah, I don't think there's like one way is the right way.
I noticed when you did a text interview with Gabe Follower, you mentioned that there was some like third-party tools that you have to use to like speed up the process a little bit, and just to like it was basically predicated because he asked a question about like is map making sometimes unreasonably difficult, like some of the things there. I was curious about from your perspective, what some of the biggest pain points were for the process. Like what areas, is there a specific part of making a map that's like really hard and it's not really for a good reason in your mind?
Well, just talking about the Counter-Strike engine, the source engine, it's what I find really hard to get right is the cube maps. It's like the reflections. Normally it's like, for example, if you have like a shiny ball and you place it in the middle of an area, a lot of engines just calculate the reflections right away, and then you exactly know what you're going to get. In the source, it's like more trial and error. And if you have like a lot of reflective objects in your level, it's going to take a long time to get them all right. So that's something that's really a pain in the ass because it's an old engine. And for the rest, of course, the use of newer techniques for materials and modeling. That would be great to have. But other than that, it's still a pretty good engine, I guess. It feels really good and it aged really well. But of course, you want to get like an update in the end. So
yeah, of course. Well, something that was funny is I remember when FMPONE was doing the rounds talking about the new cache rework sometime last year, and he mentioned that like there was some really weird issues he was having where people could like they would lose a crazy like 100 200 FPS just walking into Z, and like some area, it was just some trim or something that was overflowing, or I forget the exact details, right? But like stuff like that you wouldn't necessarily know. It goes back to the trial and error kind of approach that you have to have sometimes for the source engine, right? Like some stuff is just going to surprise you.
Right. Yeah. I didn't see that exact issue with the trim you mentioned, but most of the time that's also like an easy fix because that's just like, oh, I have to remove that trim or that particular object, and you're gonna fix the entire thing. But still, yeah, there's a lot of small puzzles you have to solve. Also, like a lot of things players won't get to see, or other designers. It's more like But it's also like really satisfying if you get it right in the end. So
yeah, of course, right. It's that puzzle that you're trying to figure out. So I was
yeah,
curious
yeah.
a little bit about some of your older maps, right? Like going back to some of the beginnings in CS:GO. One of the things that I noticed is I went back and played Tulip, and that map has a lot of similarities in its architecture with Ruby. Like the lighting is obviously very different, and some of the stuff around the rest of the map, but particularly on I think it's the B-bomb site where it's a little bit upraised and you've got that staircase going down. That one
Right.
reminded me a lot of like the middle area of Ruby. And I was curious as if to like if that was a deliberate thing where you were looking at that and you were like, well, this could really work out. Maybe it would work better as a middle or something like that. Was there some sort of unfinished business you had with the layout of Tulip that you wanted to like reuse some of that stuff?
Yeah, sometimes I just like go back to the blockout. So, for example, with Tulip, I'm not sure if I did it with that particular area, but sometimes I go back to an older layout and then, like you said, take like a particular angle or whatever. It's like a corridor, and take that and try to implement it in like a new layout, because I know it already works and it's fun, and so I try to work around that instead of coming up with an entirely new area. But I'm not sure if I did it with the bomb side B of Tulip. Might be, yeah. I know I used the on middle of. I'm not sure. Did you also play Shift? Did you check the map
Yes,
out?
yeah. That was
Right,
another
right,
one that
right.
was added to the game that you're probably known for.
Yes, yeah. Well, there's like, if you have middle from the terrace side, it started off. Ruby started the same way. Like the middle area, like the upper area where like the catwalk. I'm not sure if you can
I can visualize it. Yeah, I know what you're
combine
talking about.
combine it together in your mind. But I use that. It's really hard to like. I can't remember them all, but yeah. But I definitely do that. Yes, yeah.
Are there some elements of existing maps, maybe like even going back as far as like Crossfire and stuff like that, where you would look at some of those older maps and you think, well, that was a really cool idea. If I could use it in another map, like if the opportunity arises, would there be another like an angle or a theme or even like just like an entire bomb site layout or something like that that you'd like to see, give another try?
I didn't go back that far, because also like back then I was still learning, also with the designing, but also with the visuals. But now with Tuscan, it's like if you know the map Reef, it's like based on the Tuscany coast, like with Manarola and those Italian cities.
Right.
I'm actually using now also Reef as a reference for Tuscan a little bit, but I don't want to make it that cartoony. But with the setup, but that's just visual. That doesn't anything to do with the layout. But I don't think I'm using anything from the earlier maps now. No.
Okay. I've read that you, in addition to Tuscan, you're also working on, or maybe it's just like in the early stages of conceptuals, but you're also working on some other maps, that you want to explore after Tuscan's done. Do you have any ideas for like? One of the conversations that I had recently with Oliver was that there's the thematics that you have in CS, or the theme of a map. Like he gave the example of Overpass's theme really just being like there's a bridge and a bomb site on top and a bomb site underneath, and so like there's themes that people can explore still. There's a lot of ground to cover that people haven't covered yet. Are there any themes or any ideas that you've had that you want to try out in Counter-Strike that you think are unique enough that like they haven't been done before?
Yeah, I do. Of course, I'm not gonna tell them.
Oh yeah, of course, right.
I'm not gonna lay them out. One thing I really want like to do is I'm working on this layout of my own. It's like really really early, it's still blockout, but I want to do a level based on Norway, like with the fjords and everything. Because I've been there on vacation, it's just beautiful, like with the vistas and everything. And so I think it would be really cool to have that as backdrop. So if you, for example, have like a T-spawn, then the backdrop you see all the fjords and all the small vehicles going along the mountain roads. I think that would be really cool. But yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe like yeah. The only thing you really have to keep in mind if you're choosing a theme is that it can't be something from how do you say this, like from a terrorist attack or something. Like for example, you can't use a train station because it's gonna remind people of the attacks and everything. So you don't want them.
There's some restrictions in what Valve will possibly accept, and if you don't sort of adhere to them, you can still release your map in the community workshop, but they won't ever be added to the game, right? So, if your goal is to get it picked up officially and maybe see it even in the pro scene potentially, that's definitely something that you kind of have to adhere to. So, I was curious. Speaking about things that Valve, prefers, right? Obviously, one of the things that they prefer is like very consistent gameplay. But some of the ideas, like some of the most interesting ideas that I've seen out of the workshop maps, have been times where the map makers have decided I'm actually going to change the gameplay entirely. I'm going to actually make some changes, some very large changes. Like a conversation that we've had on this channel for a while is Swamp. Swamp obviously had that slow movement speed mechanic, and
Right.
obviously that's been removed since. And maybe many people have said like maybe it didn't work out in Counter-Strike or something, but the attempt was there, and it was an interesting idea. Do you have any ideas of like ways that map layouts can really radically make a difference? I mean, Vertigo is an example of a map that obviously strays from the default gameplay and makes doesn't actually add any new mechanics, but changes a lot of stuff. Like obviously they've got fall damage where you can fall off the building and stuff. Like, do you have any ideas of your own that you might want to see, or any thoughts that like maybe somebody else did this, but it could be done better and it might actually work in Counter-Strike?
Right. Well, with the fall damage you also did on Engage, by the way, where you have like the bridge on A side.
Oh, right.
That's stuff you have to take fall damage into consideration. One thing I did back in the day with Reef was that from terrace spawn, you had to jump in the water.
I actually had that written down as an example. Yeah, that specific one, because you're jumping in and it's really hard to shoot you if the CTs try to get you like a rush or something like that. So,
but that was also like a thing I tried. I really like it still, but that just doesn't work for competitive play. At least I tried it, right? Maybe it works out. Sometimes you just have to try it. And other things I really would like to try, I don't know. It's also going to be the same thing. That's not competitive viable. Is that if you have like a door that can only be opened by the button that's in a different room, so one of your teammates has to open a door for you, stuff like this. I think that would be cool, but it's the same thing. Yeah, if the player base isn't going to accept it, they're gonna just it's really hard to implement like new features like that, because the CSGO player base is like very stubborn towards new ideas. But
yeah. You've referenced Reef specifically, and that was one of those cases where, like, I mean, it's just like I feel like it's a calling card of your map design style is playing around with height and having like really large differences between like somebody at the top and somebody at the bottom. Where most maps don't really do that. Like they're usually more uniform, or if there is a lot of height differences, it's like heaven and hell. It's like one very small area where you can elevate yourself. Whereas a lot of your maps have a lot higher. Ruby obviously had this with mid and like going up ladders and stuff, and then more recently Engage is a map that plays around with this a lot. There's like tons of different areas where you can elevate yourself. Obviously the whole A-bomb site is like enormous in that sense. Is that something that you just
for Engage, of course I didn't do the layout, so that was Bobcast's idea, of course, but that was like a coincidental.
Right.
But sorry, I just wanted to say that
makes sense.
I don't want people to think that I did the layout. I just like I worked on the visuals. Of course, I was also like I did some of the design. I just want to make that clear. So
sure, but one of the reasons why that map may have been like interesting to you in that sense is because it did play around with that stuff, right? In the same way, like it has that element of height to it. And is that something that like you personally think is just not explored enough in Counter-Strike maps? Like, do you think that it could be, you could have a competitive map, even played by pros, that has more height it's sort of a different angle than Vertigo does, where obviously there's a lot of height in that map, but a more standard-ish map with a lot of height differences?
Yeah, personally, I really like it. Like it gives maps more depth, but again, it's the same thing. You have to be really careful of what you want to try, what you want to, how do you say this, like get the player into. If they're not used to it, it's like really hard for CSGO players to adapt to it. But yeah, I think it really gives. I also really like to try new things, even if they don't work out in the end. At least they're not going to work, and maybe even learn why they didn't work. That's more valuable, I think. But yeah, like also with Engage, when I saw the layout, I thought it was really cool. But at first, it had like bomb site A right now is like 2 levels. The ground floor, level 1, like the red balcony, and then the bridge. But it used to have like another level above that, so that was a bit much. Right, so that was never gonna work. I think. Also, Rizzle thought the same in Bobcast. So, but yeah, I think you should definitely try as a map designer, try new things, even if they don't work out. Just like make sure that you learn why they don't work out and try to improve on that.
So when it comes time to look at a map, like you're talking about, where there's 4 different levels or 3 different levels to that A-bomb site and Engage, you look at something and you say, well, we tried something, but it didn't really work out. What's your angle for like fixing something or making a positive change to a map? Like in the cases where you have to like update a map and try to fix some problems, how do you usually go about trying to update the layout and make it better?
Yeah, like at first, like if it's just like a block out, or are you just do you mean like engage in particular, or just like in general?
Just in general. What's
Just
your
in
process
general.
like for improving maps like that?
Yeah, I would just like do it like one step at a time. So again, like if you're like talking about the block out, so just like from a paper sketch, get it first time you get like players in the actual level. Yeah, make sure you get your record demos, and you get like as much feedback as possible, as soon as possible, and then try to work on the things that don't work and leave the things that are working and try to iterate on them if you like them, of course. But don't try to solve different problems all over the map at once, because then you don't know because everything in a level is like connected somehow. So if I change something on bomb site A, it's also going to affect bomb site B somehow. Even if I don't change something there, because the timing is better on A side, so terrorists would go there more often. So now bomb site B, CTs can push more, something like this, right? So if I'm also going to be changing something at bomb site B at the same time, I'm not sure what the change did. So I would say just like one step at a time. Yeah, if you have a problem, and just like try things slowly. Yeah.
If you had to look back on one of the more recent maps that you've worked on, could be Engage, could be Ruby, could even be further back. Do you have any idea of, like, you're looking at it now and you see some flaw that you would like to fix? Do you have any ideas for what might be a way to improve one of those maps that you've worked on recently?
A flaw. Yeah, I think on Tulip mid was too complicated. That was also the feedback. So this is also what I tried to do in Ruby. Again, also like on Ruby at first, mid was too complicated. Also, so I definitely learned that I have to keep things more simple. Even if they work in playtest, so I playtest a lot. People get to learn the map, but then it's also like biased because they know the map. So if
Yes.
you're gonna like, yeah. So this is also what I learned. So you should go in with like a really simple, a really simple layout. So players will be like really, yeah, they will like learn it on the first run if that's possible. Because also, like, for example, if I would have designed Nuke right now, the layout of Nuke, I would release it. No one would like it. Everyone would think, "What the fuck is this? Where's mid? What's two bomb side above each other?" Right. So just keep it simple, and yeah. It sounds so cliche, right? But I don't know.
Well, to that point, I mean, you mentioned Nuke. Obviously, Vertigo is another one. I mean, Overpass is a good example as well, I think, of like a
Yeah.
relatively, complex or just an abnormal layout. Is there a case to be made that, like, CS players generally are a little too, like, they adhere too much to their own style? Like, they don't want to experiment. They don't want to really explore it. Like, in cases like where Valve essentially forces it on people, especially on the pro level as well, do you think that does end up being better for the game or for just in general? Do you think that there's a case to be made for, like, forcing players to deal with something that's more complex?
Yes, of course you don't want to you don't want to force them all the way. So like remove all the maps and just like get all the new maps in. Again, do it one step at a time. I think what they're doing right now with Anubis is really cool, because at first also it's like a really beautiful map. Have you played? You have probably you know the map, right?
I've played it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's a beautiful map, but also like it's more of a complex layout. But like after 3 games, you really get the hang of it, and that really makes sense. It's really nice to see that they keep a map in there for like longer, so people get more used to it. I'm not really sure if it's doing really well still, but I heard like at the beginning, like a lot of players were also positive about it, so that's really cool. But yeah, I would say definitely it's like try new things on a player base. It also keeps it interesting, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because I mean, we could be playing the same maps forever, or we could try some new stuff, right?
Yeah. But we're basically playing the maps for like I'm not even sure for how long, yeah. But like Dust 2 and stuff, yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. I mean, I'm also like really curious how the designer would feel about that.
Yeah, like he might. Well, that's the funniest thing, because of course there's a lot of people. Sorry. What were you saying?
It will be really scary if there's so many people playing your map.
Yeah.
I heard like even in I think it's in England they redesigned the Dust 2 layout for paintball course.
Yes.
So it's really cool. Like that will be such a cool compliment as a map designer, right?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, well, that's the other thing, is it's almost immortal, right? Dust 2 specifically is like, if there's a way to make custom maps in some other game, somebody makes Dust 2. Like it almost always happens, like they always remake it in some way. So like it's what I would wonder is, this sort of links into the Tuscan conversation as well, because there's a lot of people who were not involved in the map creation of it, but played it back in the 1.6 days, or they have gone back and played it since, and they think the layout is really good. And then there's other people who think maybe the layout's kind of overrated, or maybe it doesn't work in Counter-Strike Global Offensive because of all the rules that have changed, all the gameplay changes. Where do you come down on like evaluating a map that's been out for a long time like that? You know, especially like in the example of Tuscan. It's like, do you actually do you consider yourself like a fan of the original layout?
Of Tuscan, yes, I really like it. To be honest, I also told this to Colin, but I sometimes used to load it up. So it's with a lot of popular maps. You load it up and you just like walk through it to see how other designers solved certain things.
Yes.
So I also did it with Tuscan. So and how if it aged well, like just what we were just talking about with Dust 2, it's probably the same thing, right? Like on Dust 2 they didn't change a lot of things, but they kept the same layout and then just like made small adjustments for the game, for the new game, for like Molotovs and stuff like this, and now it works. So I want to do the same thing with Tuscan. Just like keep the base layout, especially at first. Get a lot of playtest again, all the stats and the demos, analyze, and then again make small iterations if it's necessary. So, but I think that the layout right now, the original layout, is still very viable for CSGO. Yes. Yeah.
What do you think the best map that you've been involved with is? Like, you know, obviously we talked about a lot of the maps that you've made, and then a lot of the maps that you've helped out with as well, like Engaged. What, if you had to say the number one map that has cat food on the roster of people who contributed to it, which one would it be?
Sorry. So my favorite, my own favorite map.
Yes, the favorite map of yours. What do you think the best one is?
I really like Ruby still, especially after the tweaks. Yeah, and also this new layout I'm working on. Like I said, where I might do the Norwegian theme, but it's still like very early. I really like to play that, and also I had like very positive feedback on that. So, of course, Tuscan is really cool. Yeah. So, but I would say my own layout would be Ruby still. Yeah.
Cool. So if we talk a little bit more about the active duty maps that are in there, right? I was curious if there's any map that's in there right now. We talked a bit about Dust 2, but any map that you see having some sort of flaw that you have maybe an idea to how to fix? Is there anything that you think, like maybe a nitpick you have or a complaint you have about one of the maps that's in the map pool right now?
No, that's so hard to say. Again, it's also... you can, of course, I don't know, but this is also what I think what they're doing at Valve is more like just to try new things out. Also with Vertigo, it's like it's going back and forth, right? But in the end, it's the same with Overpass. At first, it was a bit of a mess. They changed a lot of minor things, and now it works. But one thing I would change. No, I don't know. No,
it's a tough question. It's not an easy one.
Yeah.
For sure.
No. Yeah. No. I don't think so. No.
On the other side,
not one that would like change the map completely and fix everything. No.
On the other side, do you have any favorites? Is there like a best map in your opinion for what's out there in the active duty pool right now?
Right. Yeah, I really like Overpass and Dust 2, but I played it so much. It's more like of course, you can't say this about Dust 2, but I'm almost getting it's getting a bit much. So yeah, Mirage is also really cool. Yeah, not a fan of Inferno, but Vertigo also like I don't know. Yeah, but just like as of late, I don't play that the CS:GO that much, so I don't know about the latest Vertigo changes. But yeah.
What do you think separates Inferno from some of the other maps? Like you said that you're not much of a fan of it. What doesn't what makes it feel like it's not as good of a map as some of the others?
Yeah, there's a lot of corridors, like small corridors. I really like the balcony though, but to the bomb side. But yeah, it's too much going on. I think.
Gotcha.
Too much weird angles. Yeah.
Are there any custom maps that you've played that you feel like could actually hold their weight if they were added to the map pool? Like you mentioned Anubis earlier. Do you have any maps that you've played recently that if they were thrown into competitive, like professional play, they would actually do pretty well?
Well, Abby did it really good. Can you remember Abby? It was also I think in one of the operations.
Yes.
But there's a lot of also like a lot of maps that got like updates after the operation, after they've been in game. But also like there's so many good maps that didn't really get a chance because they were like really out of the game before the level designers could really do something about it.
Right. Yeah.
So
they didn't get a fair shake. What's an example of a map that could have done more if it had a little bit more time?
Maybe my own maps is the same. Like after what I did with Ruby at first, like I went in with one layout, then changed like especially the middle section completely, and then it almost got like no playtime. It would be really interesting for me also to get like another boost or somehow. But I also know I'm not sure about like one level that there's so many. It's like it's really hard to pick one or like three. It's like there's so many good level designers for CSGO.
You referenced the operations earlier too, and like this is something that we haven't really. I mean, obviously we saw an operation very recently, the Shattered Web operation, but we didn't really see like the same regular rotation of custom maps coming in for a long time. There was a long gap before we saw any more custom maps since the previous one, right? Which I think was Operation Hydra or something like that. So, what do you think of like is there some way that Valve could be doing more for like showcasing more custom maps or pushing more of them? Is there some way that that could be improved upon, do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe just like have a separate pool of just custom maps. But I'm not sure if there will be enough players. But then maybe you would have like if you have like 7 maps next to the current pool, like a separate tab in the game, where you just have like custom maps that are like really popular, and then also you can get feedback on the maps, so the map designers can actually do something with it. It changes in game, and then Valve can also like have an eye on it and see if the changes really work out, and then maybe swap them back to the other pool. If that makes sense. Maybe something like that. I don't know. So the maps get like more playtime because that's really what you want, like more data, and so yeah.
Yeah, well, there's the MapCore Faceit hub that has a decent number of players across NA and EU. So you would think maybe that would be sufficient to have a couple of games now and then on the official game too, if they were added in some sort of like full capacity to the game, right? So
yeah, that's really. It's like I feel a bit bad saying this, but because Engage is in the MapCore Faceit hub right now. And it got like a lot of feedback, also a really good feedback, and like about the same issues. So it's really valuable. I didn't have time to fix it yet. But what I was going to say, like the MapCore Hub is like really good source to get like your map tested and get really good feedback, because there's also like a lot of good players on there, but also like level designers. So you get like different angles of feedback. So it's really nice. Yeah. But yeah, you should actually do something with the feedback. I'm not sure if anyone of MapCore is going to watch this, but yeah, sorry.
No worries. I wanted to ask you about a little bit more, go a little bit deeper about the Tuscan remake that you're involved with now. I don't expect you to share like every single detail. Obviously, you're going to have to keep some things close to the chest, right? But I read that you were initially approached by Brute via Steam message, I think it was. Can you say a little bit more about how why he reached out to you and how you were chosen? You know what I mean?
Yes, I'm not sure why he chose me. Well, he really liked the maps. He also liked Reef, so he came up with the theme as well. Because of course the name's Tuscan, so it's like we thought it would be cool also like have a map based in Tuscan itself, like the Tuscany area. So that's one reason. And I was actually on vacation when he came up to me. I was with a friend on vacation. I was having a cocktail at the hotel. And then I got this message. I was like, "Oh shit, what the fuck? Why? What's happening?" And but he added me like I don't know 2 months prior, and I was more like, okay, I didn't think of it anything of it. And then like a couple months later, I got this message and it was like, yeah, of course I want to do this. It's really cool. So but nothing special. We didn't really talk about why exactly, or like I said, just he knows my work. So but just luck, I guess. Also, of course, like hard work and a bit of luck.
When I was initially, like when I got the word initially that you were involved in this remake, I was curious as to how heavily Brute himself would be coming back and working on it, because I know he's been busy working in other things. So how involved is Brute with the remake? Like are you like you guys working together on the layout, or is it mostly like you working and then sending him updates? What's the process look like?
Yeah, it's like I share everything with him. So like I'm super transparent, like about the steps I take, and every design decision also goes through him. So if I come up with an idea, because I'm spending the time in the editor, and something happens, like I come up with an idea, and then I go to him, like, what do you think of this? And then we walk through the map, check things out, if every angle still works, and just like if it stays true to initial layout. So, but yeah, I'm doing the editor time, and he's like involved as much as possible besides the editor time. So yeah.
Is there anybody else helping you out directly with like art or layout, or is it just the two of you?
No, it's just us. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You said earlier that you also do a lot of playtesting, generally speaking. Do you have like an inner circle of people you trust to like hop in and do some 10-mans, or are you doing mostly like bot testing? What's the testing process look like?
For Tuscan, you mean, or in
general?
Yeah,
just in general, but also for Tuscan specifically.
Right. Yeah, normally I've like because this is different because there's like a lot of people are watching it. I've like this Discord group with a couple of pro players that really want to test the map as well. That's really useful. But I also want to set up like I've got the catfood gaming server, playtest server. Sorry, a group on Steam where I just like gather people and then send invites if I have playtests. Yeah, and if you really want to play test, just like hit me up. Just let me know. Of course, like I was looking for people to join. Cool. It's like I said, it's also like really important to get like a different skill levels. So you're not gonna get just like feedback from just the pro players. Yeah, you want it's like everyone is welcome. So yeah.
Do you have any significant changes planned? I saw like you said earlier you wanted to keep the layout relatively simple, but obviously the game has changed a lot since 1.6. Is there anything specifically that you want to start in like changing up so that it benefits the CSGO game state and the weapons and stuff?
And we like everything is still like open for discussion. But one thing we're probably gonna do is make the tunnels shorter towards A. Because a lot of people already gave feedback on that. Like also with the initial version, they didn't really. That's the part they didn't really like about the map. But for the rest, it's more like I try to keep as close to the initial layout, and then see what doesn't work, and then just like iterate on that instead of making changes I think would work. I want to get the community to almost make the changes of the decisions for us. Right. So if the community is like keep saying the same thing about a certain area, we want to work on that. So, but for now, it's just probably going to be the tunnel. It's going to be like a little bit shorter and maybe some simplification all around. But yeah, we're going to keep it as close as possible to the original.
This is a different kind of project for you generally, because obviously the previous stuff, maybe you were collaborating with others, maybe you were just working solo, but this is the first one where it's like, it's high profile and the community's kind of involved and you got like a group of people who are giving back. And like, it's very much like, if you had to pick like a favorite for in esports terms, we call it like the favorite to win the tournament. Well, Tuscan's probably a favorite to get added into the map pool. You know what I mean? It's like a likely candidate in that sense, because of the history of the map and obviously the pedigree of the people who are working on it. So I was curious as to like how different the design process ends up being. Like, is this really different from the way that you normally design stuff, or is it just like a little bit more focused?
Not really. So the only thing that's different is more like I keep small changes in mind, because again, like I want to stay true to the original. So if normally I would say, oh, this could also work if I just like move this corridor up like a little bit, like I keep most of the same angles. Where here I want to keep all the original angles. Normally I have more flexibility, and now I just have to stay true to this layout. So, but for the rest, it's basically the same. Yeah.
So
I just
obviously,
go
ahead.
I just could skip the paper sketch,
right?
The paper planning. I could skip it and just start with the blockout level. So yeah.
Now you're obviously planning on, as far as I understood anyway, you're planning on making some aesthetic changes, right? Like you're redoing the theme in some capacity. You talked earlier about the similarities to Reef and how it's going to be somewhat similar, if a little bit less like cartoony, I think you described it as. So is there a situation where like, do you think once the new theme is in, there's going to be more gameplay changes that have to come as a result of that? Because sometimes the theme itself changes how you how the gameplay plays. You know what I mean? What's your take on that?
That's really too early to say. I know there's like there's parts of the castle. It's gonna be in a level. It's like ruins. And also a thing we got, like there's like a lot of feedback. There's like no spammable spots in the level where you can shoot through objects. So we want to add that, and that's maybe like if you have like ruins and some of the windows are like broken and they're like boarded up. So maybe we can use that. But again, we didn't really decide on where to do that. But yeah, you're right. Like a lot of time when you just like keep adding the visuals, the cosmetics, you come up with new ideas as well. So maybe in that stage, yeah, there's gonna be more ideas. But for now, like no, not really.
I read
Besides
that.
that, I just like mentioned.
I read that you actually rebuilt it from the ground up. Is that the case? Like, is that the case with the map where you wanted to rebuild it from like basically a new map file and then bringing in the architecture immediately?
Yeah.
And was that for like performance or just so that you could get a really good understanding of how the map actually was?
Yeah, it's also performance. So like there's no excessive blocks or like stuff in there. But also, I didn't start from the when it got released, like a couple years ago, like the Brutus stake on the CSGO version of Tuscan. I didn't use that one, but I used like the initial base of the 1.6 version, and then took a few things from the source version and Brutus version, and then merged them together into like a new block out. So I basically put all the blocks in again, like over like a set layout I made from merged three levels merged, if that makes sense.
Now, one thing that's been discussed, especially considering the fact that Tuscan originally was a 1.6 map, people have been starting to think about the decisions that have to be made, considering the fact that there are differences in gameplay between the two games, right? 1.6 and CSGO. Now, do you have any ideas as to like if you were tasked with bringing up just any old 1.6 map and updating it for CSGO, what's like a principle or a design philosophy that you have to have? Like, what decisions are you going to be making to make it benefit CSGO more? Are there any like drastic differences between the two games maps?
Yeah, like a lot of like this is also visual, but it's also like a lot of like 1.6 maps. There were like really a lot of corridors, so it's really nice if you can open it up also for grenades and stuff like this, because of course there's also like effects if you open it up, like you now have like molotovs and stuff like this, which you didn't have like in 1.6, so you can use. And also one thing that's really important is like keep like the corners, keep them sharp for like if you want to like peek around the corner, because you're adding more detail to like the source version. Sorry, the CS:GO version. Yeah, the source, but you're adding models around the corners, but models are not always straight, if that makes sense. So if you have like crates, there's like gaps in there. For example, like if it bricks, like crates made out of bricks, stacks. So that's like really important to keep in mind, that the angles are going to be like really straight. So. But for the rest, yeah, it's like there's not really one rule you have to apply to bring 1.6 maps to CS:GO. But that's really important.
On a sort of a different note, there's of course FMPONE's updated cache that came out some time ago last year, and one of the things that he had obviously changed up was like to your point about angles, right? He changed up the whole red. Now it's like a tank instead of it just being a giant like straight thing. So it's got a little bit more definition to it. There's different angles now that you've got to consider. He opened up some more stuff so you could like throw flashes behind that billboard that's on that site as well.
Yes.
And
yeah.
So like, what's your take on specifically the cache rework? I'm not sure how familiar you are with it, but do you have like ideas of? Do you think it's like better for gameplay, even though there really aren't that many changes? But there are some big ones like mid and A site. But do you think that it ended up being better for gameplay than the original version?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Why people are not liking it? Like it's not that popular anymore, right? But
right.
No, I think you did a really good job. Like also with on A side, if you have like the thing you mentioned, like the tank that's there. Like that's exactly what I meant with I think like sharp edges around models. So he did a really good job there as well. Also like that's like more open. Maybe the weird thing was like, but of course that wouldn't break the map. It's like where he had like the little ledge where you could stand up on B side. I'm not sure if it's still
at
there.
some point that was removed. Yeah, that was in the show match for sure though, and some people were saying that might be a broken spot. So.
Yeah, that's also what I thought. Is this like a bug or something? But for the rest, I think it was like he did a really good job. Also, like but I'm not sure what the exact problem is. Why people are not liking it, or so. Do you know? Have you heard anyone mentioning why it doesn't work, or?
Well, some people were complaining about the aesthetics, as far as I understand, it being a little too green. He's made a lot of compromises on the theme down the like the last year or so. He's updated it, and it's to the point where it's like almost unrecognizable. If you go back and look at like screenshots or like the video of the show match that happened at one of the IEM events last year, if you go back and look at that version of the map, it looks so much greener, so much more vibrant.
Yeah.
But when the player skins came out, and a lot of those were having difficult visibility wise, you couldn't really see them because they were all camoed. So I think he had to make a lot of compromises for that. But I'm not really sure. Other than that, it does seem like FMPONE's maps are a little puzzling to me because I really like pretty much like I think most of his work is pretty good. Like I remember Sub-Zero when that came out, I thought for sure that would be added to competitive. Pros would be playing on it.
That's the same thing as like we were talking about like just go like if that map would be still in the game but like in a separate pool.
Yes.
He could still keep working on it, and that's what of course that's one of the maps that like really high potential. But again, it's like it's only like in the game for like a couple months if you're lucky, and then it's like I'm also not sure. I think they did like a couple of times where they like reintroduced the map, but it's so rare that you're like it's hard to spend time on a map you already worked on. It's already been in game. I'm not sure if it's worth it. So it would be really, really great if they would keep the map in game and then again more feedback and maybe it gets better and then you have like more variation as well in the map pool.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, one thing that happened is, I guess to your point about it being so long after somebody's map is done and then they reintroduce it, sort of like almost in a way that doesn't seem. It's like, why would they do that, right? It's kind of puzzling. Yeah. It would be like if Crown got reintroduced or something. You know, it's like that's a map that he hasn't looked at in forever, I'm sure. So. Like it's stuff like that really does confuse me about like the way that map pools are treated. I do feel like one thing that would be really cool to see is more in a way that it's not like a show match style thing. But if you could have something, I'm not really sure if the viewership would be in for it. So I'm not sure about monetization. But if there could be some sort of like semi-pro level tournament, right? Like something where it's like tier, like MDL or something like that. And they're all using like custom maps. Like then there's a prize pool, there's money, there's incentive for pros to play at it. And like at first people are going to be like, well, who would play that? But then they see the prize pool and they're like, oh, that's easy money because nobody's going to play that. But eventually enough people would come in, I think, and they would all start to play. Like maybe that could be an angle to encourage that.
Might be a really good idea. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Yeah.
As I just feel like
stuff like this. Like there has to be more you can do to keep custom maps in the game, right? Somehow.
Yeah.
Like because like people obviously like them. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I just feel like
sounds like a good. You have like a good idea. Maybe you should write Valve. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
just try it.
Maybe I should start contacting some tournament organizers and say, hey.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
It would be really cool to see that because I feel like there is a demographic of people who play very casually or don't play at all, but they watch a lot of professional games. And those kinds of people, I feel like if they found out that there was like okay, this is a weird example, but there was an Omen Arena map that was like a 1v1 or 2v2 map, and there was a show match tournament where people played like 1v1, 2v2, free for all, stuff like that. And
was that with the op in the middle?
Yes, exactly.
I know the guys that made that map. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, it was almost like a Quake map or something. It was a very different style, right? Yeah. And so one of the things that I really liked about that map was like it was so different, and it was definitely like you could tell it was custom. Valve wouldn't have probably made something like that. So it was really cool to see that happen, and I feel like that got a decent amount of attention, and it was kind of novel. You know, people were interested in it. And obviously, it's not like a 5v5 diffuse map or something, but I mean, really, the same thing could be said for hostage stuff. Like if there was a hostage tournament, people might actually be interested in that. I mean, maybe there's some balance problems with the game because the terrorists have cheaper guns, but they're also the defensive team. So unless it's easy for CTs to get there, like it's kind of hard. But even you put that aside from it, like outside of the gameplay things, if there were more hostage maps like out there, it might be interesting to see like how that kind of thing approached in general. I was actually curious if you've ever made any hostage maps or played around with them in the past. Is that something you've played around with?
Yeah, I made one map like years ago. What's the name again? CS Dualism. I think it's still on Game Banana.
Okay.
Yeah. It was really cool, but it was also a map based. The theme was like a concert hall. Like you had a stage where I think there was even a guitar on stage and amps and. So of course they didn't add maps to the game back then, but it was really fun to make a hostage map. But like also like I like to design maps for bomb defusal maps of the gameplay. So yeah.
Yeah, well, there is something timeless about it.
Yes, I think that's more fun, and I think this also counts for the players somehow. So I'm not sure. Maybe there's also not. Yeah, I also really like the Assault, by the way. Back in the days, it was my first map I ever played. So
okay.
It was really cool. Yeah. Before they added windows to the seating.
Yeah, that was definitely a while back.
It was like 1.6. I think it was like my first online game ever. So I was like, are those real players, real people? Like it was like so yeah. Hard to imagine right now, right?
Yeah, of course. Well,
But,
that first experience is never something you can relive. It's always sticks with you, right? So I was actually curious about just looking at the all of the different maps that I have seen come out. Especially recently, it feels like we've seen a lot of collaborations. We've seen a lot of people grouping up together and working together on maps. And this is a question that I was curious about, just because it's not something I'm used to from where I make a lot of maps for the original StarCraft game, which is obviously an RTS. It's not a CSGO map, but for the most part. Yeah, for the most part, we just like it's all solo. We do all of it. You're more limited in what you can really do anyway in the default editor. So like, there's not as many things to be responsible for. So I was taken aback by the fact that I found out that so many people were sort of collaborating on some of the more high profile maps. Like Engage was pretty high profile. Obviously, 3 Clicks Philip did a video on it. And then you have obviously like you working with Brood on Tuscan. And then there's plenty of other maps. Like I think most of the maps that got placed really highly in the Map Core contest last year were also like collaborative efforts, like made by multiple people. So what's your take on collaborations? Is that like the future for Counter-Strike map making is to get a bunch of people together and work on the same map?
Yeah, you can definitely focus like on one area more, and of course, like it saves you time. I think it's just like whatever people prefer. I'm not sure if there's like one way to go. If you're just like working on, most of the time I'm working on maps on my own because I like just like doing every aspect of it. It's not like I don't like working with people. I like it a lot. Also, it's also interesting, but it's also more like getting the layout done and then start adding the details and then getting to the playtesting. Do it all by myself is really really fun. I'm not sure if there's like one is the better. Like, of course, it's like for a lot of people, for a lot of designers, they either know how to do the cosmetics, so know how to do the 3D modeling, but don't know how to do the designing part. So that's why you get like collaboration. So that of course, in that sense, it's like really good. Yeah, but I'm not sure if it's better than just working solo. I just enjoy doing both, really.
If you had to give somebody advice, who somebody's watching this and they're like, I want to make some maps too. I want to be as cool as catfood is. Yeah, what would you say as far as that? Like any advice for new coming mappers?
Right. Just like first starter. Yeah, to try to get like a level done. Like even if it's not like a proper like full size level, just get from start to finish. So you at least know the entire pipeline, right? From designing the map on paper, then getting it into Hammer, and then try to do that a couple of times. Just like don't get like this enormous, massive level done right away, because probably you're never gonna finish it the first time anyway, and that's like really demotivating for a lot of. That's like I get like a lot of questions as well. It's like also like total beginners, but also like designers that are just like getting stuck. They don't get their level done. It's not looking nice or anything. It's more like, but you're taking too much all at once. So it's like, again, small steps. It's like try to from start to finish, then do it again, and then add like more details, stuff like this, and then work your way up there. I think that's the proper way to go. And of course, watch 3D clips videos.
He's definitely got a lot of videos down the years.
He got like I watched a lot of them like back in the day. It's a tutorial field. Also, Top Hat Waffle.
Yes,
it's also like a really good videos. It's like you learn a lot, and
there's a lot of resources out there for people to learn. But it does seem like I've seen some people who say like they just get stuck. And maybe it is something that they should focus on, making maybe a wingman map or something where it's just
a smaller map. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's also a good one. Maybe just like try to do a wingman map first. Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on ways that maps might be able to set themselves apart? Because this is another thing that I've seen is somebody finally finishes their map and they put it on the workshop and it doesn't go anywhere because, who knows really why? Like maybe the map's not good, or maybe they didn't like put the right images up. What's your take on like sort of getting your map out there? In a way, it's kind of like marketing, but like what do you have as far as like trying to set your map apart, theme or something like that?
Do something original, but like also don't overdo it. For like example, Anubis is like, it's not really original team wise, but it has this certain vibe, right? It's not just like another Dust with the same models, like it has water. So just like try to be unoriginal, even if it's like not a completely over the top idea. Just like don't design a map on Mars because it's new, right? Then I think it's better to do like another take on Dust, but do it like in an original way. So that because like people are tired of seeing warehouse maps.
Yes.
Or like just a dust clone, like a really dust clone with the same models and stuff like this. So I think that really helps if you want to stand out. And but yeah, it's like, and of course I get on social media, get on Mapcore. Mapcore is really good. Like yeah.
Do you think that there's like a couple of specific issues that the community in general for mapping could like improve upon, or is there something holding some people back that like if they stop making this one mistake, they might just be able to soar and be much better at map making, or their maps could improve?
Yeah, I think it's like the same thing as I just mentioned. It's like people like a lot of starters, they want to do a lot at the same time. They want to end the modeling, and it's like get your map done first, like from like a paper drawing to like in game. So yeah, you know how that works, and not I think that's something a lot of people go wrong. So like just if you want to learn like designing, just like small steps, and a lot of time.
A lot of time, yeah. I will, like you said, like we said earlier, you're pretty much a lifer when it comes to Counter-Strike, right? You've been doing this since 1.6, so definitely it pays off, right?
Yeah, and of course, like if you, for me, it's I don't see this time because it's so much fun. Like I do it more than gaming. I rarely play games because I like it so much. Like just designing, it gives me the same. How do you say this? Satisfaction? How do you say this?
Yes.
I get the same thing from it. So yeah, but yeah, and also I think I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't like it.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of work, a lot of repetitive stuff for you. You have to do the same
sometimes
thing.
It's like sometimes it feels like there's no end to it, but in the end, it's like when you're done, it's really nice.
Do you have any plans for moving on from Counter-Strike, or do you think you'll be making Counter-Strike maps for a long time going forward?
Well, as long as I can keep doing this, I'll probably keep doing this because I really enjoy it. Also with the community and just like again playtesting, and it's like that's really nice. But of course, if Valve would stop getting maps into the game, of course, in the end, because this is also like I'm also like a freelancer, but this is also like a part of my income, so I would have to like change my probably get more projects. So maybe then I also would have to look into the Unreal editor or other editors. But, because most projects I have right now is also in the source editor, so that's great.
Yeah, it's nice to put all your eggs in that basket, right? Very familiar, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So can we ask a little bit about some of the stuff that you do on the side? Some stuff that's not related to Counter-Strike? I'm sure some people would be interested in stuff like that. Like, what are some of the projects that you do that's Source Engine but not Counter-Strike related?
Right, like I'm now also like working on do you know Trilix? He's like a CSGO
YouTuber, content creator.
Of a German content creator,
yeah.
I'm also creating a map for him. It's like a quiz show. So he's going to be the show host, and then there's also sort of mini games in like one bigger level. So I've been working on that for quite a while. Sometimes I have like projects for Twitch where there's like also like if they have like I say it's like a new movie is coming up and they want to do like this. They would then they want to like have a level. One of the levels done based on one of the scenes of the movie that's coming out. And then that level is content creators are going to play that level as like advertisement, like as a campaign. So I had to do that a couple of times. It was really fun as well. And before that, I was working at just a regular game studio.
So one of my questions about the whole like maps that are used as just not like straight up diffuser maps, like you're talking about the map that you made for Trilix, and then like some of the other stuff that you've done as more or less advertisements. I was curious about. Yes. Like, this is something that's been bugging me a little bit because I've noticed that it seems like sometimes you'll see sponsors of a tournament organizer or something, and when you watch the pro streams, sometimes they add like stickers or something like that say like the logo of the sponsor or something, but I don't see this too often. And I feel like there's probably a way to do this without it being distracting in some way. Like maybe you could put the tournament organizer's logo on like a prop that's on the bomb site or something. Have people like approached you, or have you seen any ideas like that for like sort of bigging up the tournament organizers or like product placement, I guess you could call it, in the scene itself when it comes to the maps?
Yeah, I haven't seen it recently, but I had like a couple of questions. Also, like if I wanted to do that, it's like basically like take one of the official CSGO maps,
yes,
and then put it full of ads for. I didn't do it, but yeah, but you can easily do that. Yeah, of course, like product placement. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it would be that difficult. Most of the time, it's just like a 2D texture, right? That you just put on the wall.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it's really easy to do. Yeah.
Okay. As we're coming towards the end of the interview, ran through all my questions here. I was curious if you had any sort of like final thoughts that you wanted to leave us with, and any sort of maybe some teasers about Tuscan or any of the other maps that you feel like working on, or you can just say a few words of whatever you like.
Right. I like to thank the warm-up tools from Sean Olsen. Like he made the tools for 3D Max. I also like mentioned this in the Gate Follower interview. He's a great guy as well. And yeah, like concerning Tuscan, there's like really soon I'm gonna share more about it. But for now, it's like it's like I can't share anything about it more than I already did. So yeah. I don't know. No, I don't know. If you have any questions, of course, like feel free to ask me. But
all right, pretty open individual. Yeah. People can find you on your Twitter. It's on screen.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you have any questions. Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. All right. Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.